Welcome back, everyone. Let's go and do another speed comparison between an iPhone 13 Pro on the left and the iPhone 12 Pro on the right. Now, all the apps are clear in the background. They are both on pretty much the same version of software right now. And this is actually my last phone I used, and they have the same exact setup for the most part, pretty much the same apps too, which is pretty funny. So let's get into it. Let's go and do our app stores. 3, 2, 1. And the 13 Pro did get into this little pop-up. I'm going to assume that it would have been fairly close, but kind of scrolling through here, you can see very smooth. Again, ProMotion display here, standard 60 Hz on this side. So really not a big difference between both. I don't think so. So clicking here, actually the 12 Pro loaded that one up faster. So we're going to go ahead and hop out of this one. I have a bunch of these third-party apps installed. So we're going to start off with these simple ones right here. So nothing super crazy. Let's open up Mail. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing too. Measure. 3, 2, 1. It does look like the iPhone 13 Pro is able to get into that faster. iPhone 12 Pro a little bit, slower. Let's do iMovie, 3, 2, 1. And you can see, let's go ahead and load up. Okay, we have this little pop-up. Let's go and load up this simple project, and we'll go ahead and share this out. So 3, 2, 1. And you can see even when we did that, it took a little bit of time on the 12 Pro. Now we'll go ahead and say save video, 3, 2, 1, and we'll see how long it takes to save this video out. So they're both exporting. Same exact video for the most part. I didn't do anything else, as you guys saw. And it does look like the iPhone 13 Pro is slightly faster. Not a crazy big difference, but it was definitely a little bit faster there. Hopping out of this one, let's go to GarageBand, 3, 2, 1. And these are stock Apple apps. So Apple, put these in their phones to begin with. Let's go and click continue. And not a lot of differences here. I don't even know how to use this anymore. So let's go and click here. Let's click here. So we'll just go and let this one breathe for a second. We'll load it up in the background. Now I have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go to again. So let's do SoundCloud, 3, 2, 1. Okay, it looks like kind of the same thing. I mean, we did have a little bit of a pop-up here, and then we finally got into this pop-up. Let's do Netflix, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing too. Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. Exactly the same thing. Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro, I think, slightly faster. Bofa, 3, 2, 1. And a little bit of a different setup. We were kind of having two different versions of the app. Thank you, 3, 2, 1. And 13 Pro slightly faster. I think gameplay is going to be about the same. They're both typically stuck at 60 Hz for these games because there's no ProMotion. A lot of ProMotion games are not supported. Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. 12 Pro actually a little bit faster there. Very, very interesting. Temple Run 1, 3, 2, 1. We're probably going to get into some sort of, well, actually they're both on the same thing. So you can see it was roughly around the same thing there. Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And the 13 Pro was actually faster there. 12 Pro slightly behind a little bit. Let's go back into it. Let's do Paper Out 2, 3, 2, 1. And 12 Pro was actually faster there. Again, this is very strange. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And almost exactly the same thing here too. So it's very interesting. We're getting pretty much the same exact performance for the most part. They are literally within like not even a full second between each other. In some cases, the 12 Pro is beating it. Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. Now we may get into a pop-up on both. I'm not too sure. And we did, but the pop-up was faster here. So we'll probably just say this one was slightly faster for the most part. We'll go and do Doodle Jump 3, 2, 1. And this is funny. This is one of the games that supports 120 Hz. We'll do Totem 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing here too. I couldn't really tell that big of a difference. Let's go and do Stack 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro was able to load into the ad faster. Crossy Road 3, 2, 1. And it does look like the 12 Pro is able to load that, into that screen faster, which is again very interesting. Music 3, 2, 1. And I mean, you guys can see that one too. Let's do Clash Royale 3, 2, 1. A little bit of a pop-up there. I'm not too sure why that happened. And we did get to the same thing here, connection lost. I do have internet on both, so I don't know why that was experiencing the problem. Maybe it's a little error within the game itself. So go and hop out of this one. Let's do Free Fire 3, 2, 1. Now, this is another pretty large game for the most part, so we'll see how this one runs. And a lot of these games have things to do with the network connection, and they're both connected to the same network too, so that is pretty much out the window. Okay, the 13 Pro was able to be faster than the iPhone 12 Pro, which is really good. So in this case, I'm going to tell you, it looks like there's a lot of differences when it comes down to the speed. I was not expecting the 12 Pro to be this similar to the iPhone 13 Pro in my opinion. Now let's go and make our way back to the beginning and let's start loading up these apps. So let's do Mail. The 12 Pro did actually restart that. So that's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. The 12 Pro did restart that where the iPhone 13 Pro was able to keep that in the background. Let's do Measure. They both ended up restarting, so not that big of a difference there. If they both restart, that's still okay. But if the 13 Pro restarts and the 12 Pro didn't, that's when there's some issues. So it does look like the 12 Pro again restarted, where the iPhone 13 Pro is able to keep that in the background. And iMovie is a pretty large app, so that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. Let's go back to GarageBand. They're both restarted. The 13 Pro was able to restart but get into it faster than the iPhone 12 Pro. So again, we're seeing some pretty good improvements, I would say, for the most part. The speed, there really wasn't a big difference. Sometimes the 12 Pro was beating it, to be honest. But it does look like when it comes down to these, apps, the 13 Pro is doing a pretty good job when it comes down to it. So let's go back over here. Let's go back in the beginning here. Let's go back in the beginning here. Let's go into Netflix. And the 12 Pro is consistently restarting. The 13 Pro is able to keep that app in the background, which is a really, really good thing and strong thing to see. Let's go back into Quizlet 321. And again, I mean, this is a very, very good upgrade in my opinion, just based off the fact that the 12 Pro is consistently restarting, which isn't a good thing, but the 12 Pro is consistently restarting where the 13 Pro is able, and I just hit the camera, but with the 12 Pro, you guys saw that actually restarted. If I go and click here, it did not restart. Maybe a little glitch, but it did not fully restart as far as I can tell. So let's go and try one more thing. I just wanted to kind of get into the games. So let's go and get into whatever this is. Thank you. Games are typically harder for these phones to actually load up in the background. Let's do this one. So they both restart, as you guys can see. So from my experience, every single game that I've tested, for the most part, there's typically some issues with it. And for these bigger type of games, apps are kind of hit or miss. But games, they almost always restart on these apps on these phones because they're such massive applications. So it looks to me that most of these games are going to restart on both, but almost every single app that I tested that restarted on the iPhone 12 Pro did not restart on the iPhone 13 Pro. These games, on the other hand, these things are restarting, which I mentioned before is totally acceptable. So my ending opinion on this is that from a speed standpoint, so if we're just talking about raw speed, if we're just talking about how they apps open and exporting videos like I saw and all that stuff, you're going to be getting a very similar experience on both. There really isn't that big of a difference. If you're trying to get the faster phone, the bigger difference you're going to see is ProMotion, but you're not even going to be able to tell ProMotion over the display. So you're not going to be able to tell that. The main thing that I saw for the most part was the RAM management. You are getting a much better RAM managing phone from something like the iPhone 13 Pro than from something like the iPhone 12 Pro. And that's just something you're going to have to understand. If you're somebody who is going to be using a bunch of heavy apps in the background and you need the most amount of power, specifically when you're multitasking between apps, you're going to want something like an iPhone 13 Pro. If you're not even planning on doing anything like that remotely, then the iPhone 12 Pro, in terms of a speed standpoint, is still perfectly fine. I was using the 12 Pro, for my main device not too long ago, and it was perfectly fine. I had some other issues in some other areas, but performance, I didn't really complain about too much. The 13 Pro seems to be very similar in terms of the speed standpoint, but overall performance when you gather in the RAM management portion as well, the 13 Pro is a really good RAM management device, and there's a big upgrade here for sure just from that alone. Not even counting the 120 hertz display and everything like that, but between the 12 Pro to the 13 Pro, it's a pretty big upgrade in my opinion. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.